Are you worried about the levels of debt we've got ourselves into and the ability that the world has to use firepower to solve these multiple crises?
So I think you can take that question on so many levels, but I think the important point here is that on one level, just in the short term, we're beginning to see things stabilise. So is there an immediate threat of a recession? I'd say there's certainly flat growth. Whether it turns into recession later in the year, Q4, Q1 next year, actually, I would say there are signals that we're probably going to avert, certainly in the UK, avoid some kind of recession. I think we might see very slow growth for a very long time. But one of the big things is this huge energy transition, which is beginning to affect commodity markets. Now, if you go to commodity summits and things like that, what they say is we are really worried about who actually pays. And the reason there is money out there to pay for all this stuff, I mean, there is private investment, and we have got ourselves into a level of debt in the public sector, which creates the problems that it creates. But there is money out there to pay for all of these things. But the problem, particularly on the sustainability side, is that nobody's decided who benefits the most. So governments go, well, this is something that industry is going to make profit from, therefore we don't have to pay for it. The commodity markets go, yes, but there's a huge infrastructure project that's actually a public good that needs to be paid for. And so everybody's debating about who pays for what. And that's one of the things that's really creating issues at the moment. It's that we don't actually know in this brave new world that we're going into that will, down the line solve all of our problems. We don't actually know who pays for what. And that's where the difficulties are.
Rebecca, speaking of the brave new world, let me bring up AI because the market looked at this story in isolation versus the broader macro trends. And we're now scrambling in order to come up with use cases, what the relevance is of AI at this point. For me, one of the interesting features has been that the more creative part of the economy, advertisers have picked up on AI and are running with it in campaigns already versus other businesses are now experimenting and working on data sets. What do you make of how disruptive AI can be for business at this point in the journey?
So I think AI, we can be very frightened about AI and we can say this is going to cause huge geopolitical tensions and so on and so forth. If you actually look at, that engine of economic growth, which is the smaller businesses and the ones that actually don't have a huge amount of access to, let's say, economists trawling loads of data and so on and so forth, AI actually offers a really useful tool to them to be able to get all of that information and be able to do things that involve expertise, but with a lot less base expertise and just expertise in programming. So potentially there is a huge use case here for smaller businesses to be able to get more information and therefore be able to have the tools to make more effective decisions. I think the issue, again, is that we don't know exactly where this could go. There's a lot of negative coverage around AI at the moment, and that underpins a lot of the uncertainties, a lot of the political risk that we're seeing associated with AI. And some of the anxieties that America has, of course, about Chinese developments in this space. But I think underlying it all, if we can start to get down to the boring end of the market, actually, which is where this becomes a tool and starts to be something useful, then there are huge opportunities out there.